Okay, so this is going to be my Reading 350 oral language and vocabulary lesson plan. And I'm back again with my sister as my student because she's awesome and I'm taking her to Sonic. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. I did mine in a PowerPoint format because I felt like that was most cohesive. I felt like that's how I could be most explicit. So, all right, if I can figure this out, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, here we go. So now that I've got my PowerPoint, I'm going to present it. Okay. So here's my oral language vocabulary lesson plan. I went ahead and put my sister's name on the PowerPoint because why not? So these are my TEKS and my SLFFO, which is my student-friendly learning objective. These TEKS have to do with the students mainly using oral language with each other, like participating in constructive conversations that are relevant to the content area, and then just kind of learning those listening skills. So my student-friendly learning objective for my oral language is that the students will engage in a constructive conversation using appropriate oral language to build background knowledge before reading a text. So the first activity that I was going to have my students do is just a simple turn and talk, and to kind of get them thinking about the theme and the message of the story, and how some of the vocabulary words are going to fit into the story. And that is, what would you do if you were the teacher and your class was misbehaving? So you're in the 8th grade. If you were teaching 8th grade, what's your worst class?
Probably Miss Sullivan's English.
English? Okay. Well, if you were the teacher and the kids were just like spitballing and throwing paper airplanes, what would you do?
What's happened?
What's happened? Okay, what would you do?
I'd be like, okay, you have a choice. You can either be quiet and like it won't take as long, or you could like keep doing this and it would like take longer than it should.
Okay, so you like present them with the choice and you would let them know that kind of like their actions have consequences and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I think that's smart. Okay. And then so the book that I would be reading is Miss Nelson is Missing. So the next thing I would have my students do is identify the title, and then by what the title is, make a prediction about what the story is about. So from the title, Miss Nelson is Missing, what do you think the story will be about?
Probably like a teacher that like goes missing or something and the students are like confused.
Okay. And then why do you think it's a teacher instead of just a person? What clue gave you that?
Miss.
Okay, awesome. So this is my before reading activity. And then these are my vocabulary TEKS and my student-friendly learning objective. These TEKS are more about using vocabulary correctly in writing, speaking, conversation, which is really just getting like a wholesome all-around engagement and learning of a word instead of just like rote memorization. So my student-friendly learning objective is students will be able to use newly learned vocabulary in writing, speaking, and reading. Okay, so my vocabulary words for the book that I picked out were swarm, discouraged, detective, unpleasant, and wrapped.
Those are big first grade words.
So wrapped, I picked that one out because wrapped could also be spelled WRAPPED. Wrapped, it's spelled like that, has multiple meanings. So in this context, it means to knock on something briskly like that. So that was my multi-purpose word, but I think the word that the students need to know the most to understand the content is detective. So that's the word that we will be focusing on today. Okay, so this is a Freyer model. This is where we put the word in the middle and we take the sections of the rest of the model to look at different aspects of the word. So detective right here, the root word is detect. So detect means to notice, to find something, to see something. So detective, do you have any idea what detective would be, knowing that the root word is detect?
To figure something out.
Okay, so to figure something out. So the definition is really close. So it's a person who solves crimes and mysteries as a job. So yeah, it could be a person who does figure stuff out. So the next thing we're going to look at is the examples of a detective. We're going to look at examples of a person who solves crimes and mysteries. So a person who investigates things and uses found clues, like a detective looking for footprints after maybe there's been a robbery or something like that. So the next thing we're going to look at is facts and non-examples. So that's an example, what would not be an example. And then we're also going to look at some facts about detectives and the word detective. So the first fact is this could be a police officer. So meaning some police officers are detectives too, but it doesn't have to be. So you could have a police officer that's just a police officer. You could have a police officer that is both a detective and a police officer, but then you could also have a detective that's just a detective. And some non-examples. So what a doctor goes to work and does is completely different than a detective. What teachers go to work and do, they're there to teach students, they're there to help students, they're there to keep everybody safe. That's completely different than what a detective does. And a person is not a dog, so it could not be dogs. So this is my all-around Freyer model of the word detective. And then afterwards, I would go ahead and read the book now that they've learned the vocabulary and they've done some pre-learning strategies. We would go ahead and we would read the book at this point. Okay, and then that is the end of my slideshow. So at this point, I would go ahead and read the book to my class. So yeah, thank you. You're done.
Okay.
And then that is my oral language and vocabulary lesson plan. To conclude, I would probably just go through the rest of the Freyer models and after reading the book to the class, and then we might do some after reading activities.